On the night of January 10, 2013, tragedy struck in Bugolobi, one of Kampala's most prominent neighborhoods, inside the gates of a well-known family home. A respected businessman lost his life in a way that shocked the nation. His wife, the woman he had lived with for 14 years, was accused of deliberately killing him. The victim was Jacqueline Nsenga, a man admired for his success and influence in Ugandan business circles. Those who knew him described him as ambitious, hardworking, and a man who deeply valued his family's reputation. His wife was Jacqueline Uwera Nsenga, a highly educated woman from a respected background. Together, they were considered a power couple, admired and envied by many. They had built a life together, raised children, and appeared to the outside world as the picture of stability. But behind the gates of their Bugolobi home, cracks in the marriage had begun to show. Close friends and relatives later revealed that the relationship was not as perfect as it seemed. Arguments, tension, and emotional distance had reportedly become part of their daily lives. On that January evening, at around 9 p.m., Jacqueline drove home in her Toyota Lexus. According to her statement, she honked for her husband to open the gate, Juvenile, as he had done countless times before. Walked out to meet her, but what happened next would change everything. The vehicle suddenly surged forward, crashing through the gate, and struck Juvenile with great force. He was dragged under the car before it finally came to a stop. Neighbors rushed to the scene. Juvenile, gravely injured, was rushed to St. Raphael Hospital in Zambia. Despite desperate attempts by doctors to save him, he succumbed to his injuries a few hours later. News of his death spread quickly. How could a respected businessman die at the hands of his own wife? Was this truly a tragic accident, or something far darker? Police immediately launched an investigation. Jacqueline claimed the car had malfunctioned. She said it had accelerated on its own, and she panicked, unable to stop it in time. But detectives were skeptical. Forensic experts examined the vehicle. The prosecution later argued that there was no evidence of mechanical failure. Instead, they alleged Jacqueline had deliberately pressed the accelerator, turning her car into a weapon. Witnesses reported unusual details too. Some claimed Jacqueline showed little panic at the scene. Others said she seemed cold, even distant, after the incident. As investigators dug deeper, they uncovered the strained state of the couple's marriage. Friends testified that the two had been growing apart, that arguments had become more frequent, and that Jacqueline may have been unhappy in the relationship. Within days, police charged her with murder. The trial that followed was one of the most closely watched in Uganda's recent history. The High Court became the stage for two very different stories. Prosecutors painted Jacqueline as a woman who, after years of marital tension, decided to end her husband's life in a calculated act. They argued that she intentionally drove into him, using the car as a weapon. They pointed to the speed, the force of impact, and her behavior afterward as proof of intent. The defense told a very different story. They described Jacqueline as a loving wife who had simply been caught in a tragic accident. Her lawyers argued that the Lexus had a sudden mechanical failure, and in her panic, she lost control. They insisted there was no motive, no premeditation, and no reason for her to wish her husband dead. Jacqueline herself took the stand, tearfully insisting she was innocent. She said she loved her husband and would never harm him, but the court was not convinced. After reviewing all the evidence, Judge Duncan Gaswaga ruled that Jacqueline's explanation was inconsistent and unconvincing. The judge stated that her actions were deliberate, not accidental. In September 2014, Jacqueline Uwera Nsenga was found guilty of murdering her husband. She was sentenced to 20 years in prison. The verdict sent shockwaves through Uganda. To some, it was justice for Juvenile, proof that even the wealthy and powerful could be held accountable for their crimes. To others, it remained a tragedy clouded by unanswered questions. To this day, Jacqueline maintains that she is innocent, insisting the incident was a terrible accident. But the court's ruling remains final. The case left Uganda asking hard questions about love, betrayal, and violence within families. How could a marriage once seen as perfect end in such a violent way? Was this truly premeditated murder, or could it have been the split-second panic of a malfunctioning car? The truth may never be fully known. What is certain is this: on that night in January 2013, a respected man lost his life, a woman lost her freedom, and a family was shattered forever. And the story of Jacqueline Uwera Nsenga remains one of Uganda's most unforgettable true crime cases. If you found this story interesting, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more real-life mysteries.